Okay, so as you can see, obviously the car is lowered.
At one time, I had BBK progressive rate springs on this car, and it rode pretty good, but it was just a little stiff. And as I'm getting older, you know, I'm 35, almost 36 now. You kind of get to the point in your life to where you really don't want to go down the road bouncing up and down and jarring every time you hit a bump. So to say that, I'll say this. We took those out. We put factory springs. We cut those springs to kind of where we wanted the car. I was kind of going for more of a drag racing straight line performance at that time. So the cornering really didn't do a lot for me. These cars actually corner pretty well from the factory. You lower them a little bit and they do a whole lot better. So I wasn't really too concerned about the cornering performance, more or less straight line. And as you can tell, there's not a lot of flash or bling or, you know, body kit or anything like that. It does have an aftermarket hood. But when I originally was doing modifications to this car, it was all about the performance and basically drag racing, going straight to fast line. So
starting at the front,
the car does have Lakewood drag struts.
I think they're 70/30s if I remember right, in the front to kind of help the front end come up and transfer the weight toward the rear of the car. In the rear,
the car has factory upper and lower control arms. The upper arms have been box welded
kind of together to strengthen them up, but as of right now, it's factory control arms. We put polyurethane bushings in those control arms, which did help kind of stiffen it up. Everything else is pretty much factory, and the suspension, other than we have three-way adjustable shocks in the back, which are pretty common. It was kind of neat back then, but it's pretty common nowadays to see those. They actually came out with quite a bit more advanced shocks now that are two-way adjustables. I've seen a lot of stuff online. In the rear end, the gear is a 410 Ford Racing gear setup. It's got an aluminum drive shaft from Ford Racing. It's got a junkyard T5 5-speed in it that I pulled out of the junkyard, and when we swapped this car, it's got a Ford Racing clutch and just a factory flywheel. And again, like I said, that's what it was set up with when I sold it. Now that I've gotten it back, it looks to me like somebody's put like a Ram clutch in it or some other off-brand clutch. That's not the factory clutch. So the clutch has been changed since I got rid of it. But it's amazing to me that this car had been gone. I sold this car probably in 2007 and just recently got it back this past fall, so 2017. So the car had been gone for 10 years, and almost everything about it is exactly the same as the day I sold it, which is, as you guys know, a lot of these cars, they get sold and they get pieced apart and bought and sold, and pieces kind of go here and there. So it's to me, it's highly unusual to get it back 10 years later and it be almost identical to the day I sold it. So that's pretty neat. But that's pretty much the rundown of the car, the performance parts. I'm sure I'm probably missing stuff. It's got, you know, a bigger fuel pump in the rear end. And again, it's adjustable fuel regulator, air motive, and 24-pound injectors. And at one time, I had a computer chip in this car. I had computer issues, so we took that chip out and actually replaced the computer with a Cobra-style computer for a 5-speed car. And I've just pretty much ran on that factory Cobra computer since then. But you can tell it is the dark interior, so it's kind of dark and gray interior, all black doors, dash. Interior is in really good shape. The back seat there. Interior is in really good shape, clean, not showing much wear. The driver's seat is a little bit worn where people slide in and out of it. The main issue on this car right now is probably the paint. I don't know if you can see that. We took some touch-up paint right here, and a little bit off on the color, and just kind of went over because that was just primer gray. And there was multiple spots. There was another spot back here that was this huge primer gray spot. I had a hood actually fly up about 65 miles an hour going down the highway one day, and it smashed the cowl, the windshield, the top. It scarred up these and it scratched both front fenders. So there was some paint work on the car, and it was painted in the Cervini's hood, cow hood. It's just your basic, cow hood with vents there in the back. And then the hood pins were installed then. That happened probably in 06 or 07. It was almost probably 6 months before I sold the car. So the car was in pretty good shape, but you can tell the paint's definitely worse for the wear. It's set outside and probably who knows where over the last 10 years. And you can see the clear coat's kind of peeling off there. The top's kind of gets that kind of orangey, kind of darker color to the clear. You can see it's chipping there. It's just in rough shape. So that's kind of a quick overview of the car, just to kind of give you guys some idea of what we're working with here. But I'd say that's pretty average for most of the Fox bodies and the SN95 cars you're going to see. This age of a car is going to show some wear, especially if it's not being kept inside. So yeah, so I'll kind of go around and show you some other spots on it.